Hello and welcome on 360 Sport on Trust TV. I am Adeni Ajishafe. We look at those activities in the world of sport trending right now. We'll be starting from the home scene, talking about the FCT FA Cup final that will be coming up between EFCC FC and also Melentaki FC. A big one there, having Abuja. That will be on Saturday. The two teams will be locking horns there to see who wins this particular battle. Almost all the states in Nigeria right now knows the champions from each state for the FA Cup. But right now, FCT will be knowing the winner on Saturday. EFCC versus Melentaki FC. And I have in the studio Emmanuel Fashemi to do justice to all this topic we'll be looking at this hour. Good to have you, Emmanuel.
Thanks for having me, Adeni. For the FA Cup in the FCT, it's a repeat of last season's final. These teams met in the last season final, and EFCC won that giant trophy. I think this season again they are meeting in the final league, as in again. It's just a repeat of what happened last season. Will Melentaki be able to defeat EFCC this time around, or will EFCC defend the trophy they won last season? It's not left to be seen when that match comes up tomorrow. And for EFCC being coached by Coach Kabiru Wolabi, I believe in their abilities. Let's not forget that EFCC is playing in the NNL, and for Melentaki, they also are fighting to see how they can get that promotion to play in the NNL. But overall, it's a good one in the FCT. Like you mentioned, every other state has concluded their own FA Cup. We now know the winners. FCT is left, but tomorrow we'll know who is going to be representing FCT in the oldest competition in Nigeria.
Well, formerly it's actually known as ITO Cup, but right now no sponsors for that league. But the good thing is that the particular cup will be coming up, and we'll be looking at the final between EFCC FC versus Melentaki FC, a big one. And if you recall, Melentaki FC, despite the fact that they are a bit new, but this really showing a lot of class when it comes to football in Abuja.
Yes, I think that team has been pulling weight in the FCT. They are not playing in the league, but they play within FCT, the league within the FCT, and that's to tell you that they are no longer minnows in football, and we are seeing that in the FCT. We've seen a lot of surprises. I think about 3 seasons ago, thereabout, Setraco FC also played in the final, where they were able to get that qualification to play in the Division 1. I think they are still there. They've not been able to leave the Division 1. So I think the same thing for Melentaki FC. I think this time around, though we might say it's going to be difficult against EFCC, because EFCC is a league side. Well, so far so good. Melentaki have been able to hold their own, barring the matches en route to the final. They actually put on some brilliant performances, and they defeated their opponents to get into the final. I'm not surprised they are in the final, because they have that determination. But I think the only stumbling block for them right now is EFCC. I know EFCC will not take it lightly, because they also want to win the trophy and represent FCT in the FA Cup.
Well, it's a big battle between the two clubs right now. EFCC versus Melentaki. Well, Melentaki sometimes back traveled to Norway to fight over there in the Norway Cup, and really they've been fantastic when it comes to football development in Abuja, and they'll be giving a very good fight against EFCC. We wait to see who wins that particular battle in the race for the FCT FA Cup. Now we go to the big one that just happened when it comes to draws for the quarterfinals for UEFA Champions League, where big clubs and the big boys are battle ready to see who they play. But right now, let's look at the fixtures of that particular draw that will be coming up, and we look at Real Madrid against Chelsea, Benfica, Inter, Manchester City against Bayern Munich, and you have Milan, AC Milan as they call them, against Napoli. Battle of Italian clubs, and you have, let's start with Real Madrid, Chelsea. This is a draw that a lot of people want to see, and night has happened. Real Madrid, Chelsea is a match that, even though whoever wins among them, although we'll be getting to that, but let's look at it one-on-one. Real Madrid, Chelsea. Do you think Liverpool,
Real Madrid.
the way Real Madrid dealt with Liverpool, do you think they will be able to do that against Chelsea?
I think for Chelsea, they've come up against the Spanish opposition. This is not the first time. They've come up against Spanish opposition more than 7 times, and they've been able to win. I think the 4th win came when they defeated Real Madrid in 2021 en route to the final, where they beat Manchester City in the final. So this time around, I think Real Madrid also they are facing another English side after after meeting Liverpool in the round of 16. It's going to be an interesting encounter, like what somebody made mention of, that if the players can only come out with determination, they can get the better of Real Madrid. But because everybody is looking at Porter like somebody who's not up to the level where Don Carlo is, and you know, Don Carlo with his own tactics and whatever. It's interesting that both sides are meeting. Chelsea finding their feet into the quarterfinal after dismal performance in the league, but in Europe they were strong. They lost the first leg against Dortmund, and they were able to defeat Dortmund in the reverse fixture, and now they're in the quarterfinal to face the Mr. Champions League themselves. So Real Madrid, I always tell people, if you want Real Madrid to be out of the Champions League, make sure they don't qualify from the group stage. But if they qualify, you are sure of they will get their way down to last of 16.
But they've not played all the semi-final or final in this competition. They've been defeated several times.
The last time Real Madrid lost in the Champions League, I think they suffered that in the hands of the same Liverpool that they lost their final. But in all of the finals they've gotten to, they've won or losing just one to Liverpool. That was in 1981. So it's quite a long time for Real Madrid. So this time around, they are the defending champions. Can Chelsea stop them not to get to another final? It's not left to be seen for Chelsea and Porter.
Well, we've been looking at UEFA Champions League draw, the quarterfinal, a big one there for Real, the Los Merengues against the Blues. Well, what will happen? Will the Stamford Bridge really stay on, or Santiago Bernabeu will be the one collapsing? We'll wait to see that. By the time they meet, it's a big one between the Blues and the team that Ancelotti actually is coaching. Now, let's look at Benfica, Inter. The Benfica team from Portugal, they are not a team you push over. Inter Milan needs to be very careful by the time they meet in this another big one between Benfica and Inter Milan.
Yes, for Benfica, it's a great one for them. After 8 times trying, now they are into the quarterfinal. They've actually pulled their weight to get to the quarterfinal, and they're playing against 2010 champions Inter Milan. It's also interesting because Inter Milan had to defeat Porto by a lone goal, and they played a goalless draw. So they are meeting another Portuguese side. With Benfica help Porto to take the pound of flesh, the revenge. It's not left to be seen. And they will be playing at home in the first leg. Like I said, 8 times trying, now they are in the quarterfinals. It's a dicey one for Inter Milan because everybody, I think that is one of the weakest fixture we have.
I don't think it's weak. Because,
when I say weakest, barring looking at all other...
the reason why I'm saying they are not actually weak, the two teams, because you look at the road to quarterfinals. It's not easy playing the group stage for you to conquer all the teams in your group, for you to escape that, and then you play the knockout stage before you get to the quarterfinals. I won't call them weak teams.
No, I'm not saying weak teams. I said the weakest pairing. For it's not that Inter Milan is weak.
All the pairings are very strong.
All the other pairings are tougher than because
it's just because we attach. It's just like there is this particular analysis that says whatever you actually think about the darkness and light, the same thing. They exist.
Yes, they exist.
But really, an average Benfica fan will tell you this is a tough match.
It's a tough match.
But because we look at Bayern, Real, Man City, Chelsea are bigger team. But really, if we look at it, all of them are equal.
All of them are equal because they find themselves in the quarterfinal.
Exactly.
But if you want to look at the weight, the stats, history, of all the teams.
Well, history might not actually play this time
No,
around.
sometimes history plays.
Of course, but not every time.
Not every time. But if you look at the history, Inter Milan is a bigger team than Benfica when it comes to Champions League.
For winning it.
They've won the Champions League before. They are champions in Italy. They are one of the biggest clubs when it comes to
the history of Benfica before you enter the studio.
That's why I said 8 times. Benfica has not crossed this stage. No, they've never crossed this stage in their history of.
They are champions of Italy. Do you know how many times Benfica actually won this Portuguese league?
No.
If you think of Portugal, you think of FC Porto, Benfica.
Yes, but what I'm saying, Inter Milan has won the Champions League. If you look at the pedigree of both teams, you place Inter Milan ahead of Benfica in Europe, in European competition.
The real reason why you can say that is because of the coefficients that UEFA used to rate each league. Italian league is rated higher. But when it comes to football, the Portuguese and the Italians know that whenever they meet, it's always a
tough one. But the Italian teams always have an edge because if you look at, like you made the coefficient you talked about. Now let's even take that away. Inter Milan, Benfica. Inter Milan has been on this stage. This is not the first time. But for Benfica, they are finding their feet into the quarterfinal in their history 8 times. They've not been there. So if you want to look at it on stats, Inter Milan is going to.
What I'm actually saying that Stats may not play this game. Or they are more determined than
Stats may not play this game, but let's not forget that Inter Milan also can hold their own.
The same Inter Milan actually lost, even despite all the stats. Despite all the stats of Liverpool, despite all the stats of Chelsea, or whichever club you want to mention. What matters most is that particular match you are playing. How do you take it? Now, if you ask Liverpool, before they met Real Madrid for that 5-2 drubbing, they were expecting that they were going to win, right? But they lost 5-2. The second leg, what were they expecting? It ended 1-0.
If you are a team that you want to play Real Madrid in the Champions League, don't say you are going to beat Real Madrid.
Meanwhile, this same you said Chelsea dropped Real Madrid some times ago.
That was in 2021.
Exactly.
And no. In that particular game, it was exceptional because one, Real Madrid were having a lot of cries. I'm not making an excuse for it. It's a game. Anybody can win. But if you are playing Real Madrid, if you follow antecedents in the Champions League, don't just say you are going to. You don't write off Real Madrid, even in their worst form.
Anything can happen.
Yes, there is football.
Chelsea may just shock Real Madrid, and let's just continue with this. Manchester City, Bayern. We've been talking about UEFA Champions League final draws there. We look at another one now, a big one. Manchester City against Bayern. We know that Pep Guardiola, he has actually been the coach in 2 sides. He was with Bayern. He ran the race of his life to win Champions League for 3 times or 3 seasons with Bayern. He couldn't win it. But now he's with Man City. Will he be able to turn things around against his former club? We wait to see Bayern, who right now also looking at how they can win it.
Yeah, for Man City into the quarterfinal for another season. We have always said every season is for Manchester City. This season is looking good for them to win the Champions League. And they made a statement after 7-0 drubbing of Leipzig. They said Erling Haaland was brought to score goals for him to come and help them to lift the Champions League. Well, coming up, the interesting thing is that on both sides they have a very young and talented players on both teams. And then when you talk of experience, I think the more of experience is with the Bayern side. The likes of Thomas Müller, they've been on this stage severally. They know how when it's quarterfinal of the Champions League, they've been there before. And for Man City, they have quite young players with less experience. They also have experience on their side, the likes of Rodri, Gundogan, who was with Borussia Dortmund when they met Bayern Munich in the final. So it's interesting that both sides will be meeting. And for Erling Haaland, everybody will be looking up to Erling Haaland facing Bayern Munich again after he has faced them in the Bundesliga. And now he's on the side of Manchester City. It's an open game. It's an open game because both sides have this great attacking flair. They have good players up front. Defensively, they are good. in the midfield, they are good. So I think both of them will go for each other as a juggler. But at the end of the day, the team that wants it more is Man City that wants it more because they want to leave the Champions League. And Pep Guardiola has said he wants to win the Champions League with Man City. Will that be easy for Hassan Flick, a man who took over in his first season and won the Champions League? Who wants it more?
Julian Nagelsmann.
Nagelsmann, I beg your pardon. And let's see what happens. Both coaches are young. One is younger than the other. Overall, I think it's a 50-50 chance in that particular encounter.
We wait to see what's going to be happening between Bayern Munich, what they call the Bavarians, against the Citizens, Manchester City. As that particular fight will be starting first at the Etihad Stadium between the two coaches, Pep Guardiola, former coach of the Bavarians, and you have Julian Nagelsmann, one of the youngest coaches when it comes to UEFA Champions. In fact, the whole Europe right now, very young coach. But will he be using his agility against a more experienced coach, Pep Guardiola, or right now Fate will be speaking against the Spanish man? We wait to see. A big one between Manchester City and Bayern. Bayern, they have a lot of players who have really they've been there. They know what it takes to play against Manchester City robotic striker Erling Haaland. Now we look at another one. We have 4 fixtures there. Well, right now let's take the last one that has to do with the UEFA Champions League there. Milan, Napoli. This is a battle of two teams. The two teams are from Italy. Napoli at top of the table, 18 points ahead of the second place, Inter Milan. And you have AC Milan. They call them the Rossoneri. What will they be doing? This is a battle that will happen in San Siro and also Diego Armando Maradona Stadium over there in the city of Naples. Who will be winning that particular battle? Kvaratskhelia, Osimhen. You have Rafael Leao. You have a lot of stars there. Don't forget the Olivier Giroud and all of them. Well, Stefan Pioli versus a big one.
Spalletti. Great, it's a big one, like you mentioned, for Napoli. This is not the first time they are in this stage. I remember 2012 when they in the quarterfinal en route for Chelsea met them in the semi-final, and Chelsea had to dispatch Napoli. But this time around, it's a different ball game with different players, and playing on AC Milan. They've met in the league this season, and Napoli has gotten the better of AC Milan this season in the league. And at some point, it was AC Milan that was chasing them on the table before they started dwindling in form, and Napoli had to run away with that point. Now 18 points clear of their second person, which is Inter Milan. It's going to be fireworks from the first leg, the second leg. I think this match, you just have to be on your toes because if we look at the pedigree of Napoli this season, I think they are a bit different attacking wise. Defensively, they are good, and Spalletti has turned things around. And for Pioli, who brought AC Milan back to the Champions League after about 3 seasons out of the Champions League, we are going to be seeing a different ball game in this encounter. This is not a Serie A game. Champions League, and champions do what they do when they meet, and the grass is going to suffer. But so far so good for Napoli. Everybody is tipping them to get to the final, and that is the beauty of it, because of why they have 2 men up front, your friend Kvaratskhelia and our own Victor Osimhen.
But it's too early to call right now. Although we are wishing them well, but really let them even cross this particular hurdle first, because at times it's always good to take it step by step instead of beginning to pit them for the final right now. Rather prefer Napoli to win this first. Then they look at semi-finals, then final.
Yes,
because right now that people are beginning to say, Napoli for the final. Seriously,
people are tipping them.
They should not get carried away. This is, now AC Milan are more experienced when it comes to Champions League than Napoli. In fact, this is the first time in 33 years that Napoli will smell Scudetto. Aside that, the Champions League, they have always been one of those teams that make up the numbers. But now, they seem to be, they are really getting...
The last time Napoli got to the quarterfinal was in 2012. So
they are really getting themselves. Everything is going well with them, so they should be focused. They should not just get carried away. So, the battle is between Spalletti and Pioli. Who wins this battle? Italian teams facing themselves. San Siro, Armando Maradona Stadium also will be coming up. Those 2 matches will be a firecracking matches. And we wait to see who triumph in in that particular encounter. Still giving you updates concerning the draw. Quarter-final UEFA Champions League. Now, let's look at this particular graphic that has to do with, by the time they finish the quarter-finals, they'll be facing themselves in the semi-finals. Let's have that there, where we talk about the UEFA Champions League teams. If you look at it, Real will play against Chelsea. Whoever wins should be ready to at least face others.
In the pairing, winners one, that is Chelsea Real Madrid, will play the winners of the last game, that is Napoli AC Milan, and then winner two, which is Bayern Munich's game, will play winner three, Inter Benfica. And if you look at the pairing, the only person who is not we can say it's not a former winner in that place should be Benfica, Man City. Inter Milan has won it before. Benfica, Man City, and then Napoli. They've not won the Champions League, but every other team, they have tasted the glory of Champions League.
Just in a nutshell of what you're saying, AC Milan, Napoli, whoever will be facing Benfica, Inter Milan, and you have Chelsea, Real Madrid, the winner will be facing Manchester City versus Bayern. So the battle is really a tough one now. The four teams each, look at it, Napoli, AC Milan versus winner between Inter, Benfica, Bayern, Man City versus winner between Chelsea, Real. So now if you want to mathematically look at it, you can actually say you pick Real Madrid, Bayern, or you pick Real Madrid, Man City, or you pick Man City, Chelsea, or Bayern, Chelsea. Where are you standing?
Well, whoever, because it's in the semi-final, we might not have two Italian teams in the final. That is the way it's going.
What about the time we have Liverpool, Chelsea?
If it happens,
what about Man City, Chelsea?
Yes, if it happens, better. It's better. Though there's a possibility.
What if Chelsea beats Real? And also, Man City.
We can also have a all English final at the same time. We can also have all Italian finals. It's looking good for all of the teams because if you get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, that means you are strong. Because for you to cross the hurdle of the group stage,
but from the way I see it, there's no way we're going to have. We won't have all Italian final. Do you know why? One of them will drop here. This is semi-final. One of them will drop.
One will drop.
Assuming Napoli beats AC Milan or AC Milan beat Napoli, they will face either Inter or Benfica. One must drop. So Chelsea, Man City, one must drop. So there's no way we'll have all English or all Italian finals.
If we have maybe four teams from both sides, we can be thinking of all Italian, all English final. So I just love this season's Champions League because
it's kind of balanced.
It's balanced because all the teams that are in there are very strong and good teams. For Real Madrid, they've always loved the Champions League. Somebody said at this point in time, they start playing anyhow in the league. At the end of the day, they will now go and win the Champions League.
But it's just very painful that whoever wins between them now, one must drop.
Seriously.
If Chelsea beats Real, Man City beats Bayern, one of Chelsea must beat Man City. If Inter or AC Milan or Napoli wins, one of them must also draw. What a way to go. Well, just giving you updates concerning those fixtures in the quarter-final draw and also the semi-final draw. What's a way there? Big one, Chelsea, Man City, Napoli, AC Milan, not forgetting Inter, Benfica, Real Madrid and also Bayern. Well, we go to the second tier of the UEFA competition now. That is Europa League. A lot of people call it Europa Cup, but now it's called UEFA Europa League. Let's look at the fixtures there for the quarterfinals. Manchester United seems to be having a very good marriage with Spanish teams now. They dumped out Real Betis, but now they'll be facing King of Europa, Sevilla. Well, Sevilla, we know really at home they are not doing well, but when it comes to this competition, they are kind of they understand the psychology of playing the Europa League. But this time around, they'll be facing a very strong team, Manchester United. Juventus against Sporting Lisbon, who dumped out Arsenal. Union Saint-Gilloise from Belgium, they'll be facing Leverkusen of Bayern Leverkusen there. You have Feyenoord from Netherlands against AS Roma, Jose Mourinho. Now, let's take it one by one. Manchester United, Sevilla.
Big one, big game for Manchester United, Sevilla. But I think 2 seasons ago, 2 seasons ago, it was Sevilla that dumped Manchester United out of the Europa League, and it ended 2-1 in the reverse fixture, and Sevilla crossed over. But for Manchester United, they won this competition in 2017. That was the last time they tasted anything European glory. It's a dicey one. No matter how Sevilla is not doing well in the league this season, but when it comes to, you already said that when it comes to Europe, they know how to maneuver their way, and seriously, they struggled against Fenerbahce last night. If not for they had to head on to that their two-goal lead in the first leg. If not that, they have been out of the Europa League. But for Manchester United, I think they are doing well under Erik ten Hag this season. They've been able to put up strings of performances, and in Europe this season they've not lost. They only lost one game. That was their opening game against Real Sociedad, and after then they've not dropped. They've not lost any game. They were able to dispatch Barcelona. You mentioned they are marrying the Spanish teams this season. So
and the more they get married to them, the more they divorce them. You look at them dumping Barcelona out of this particular competition.
Yes.
Real Betis, now they are going for Sevilla.
Well, for Sevilla, it's a tricky one for Manchester United. They should not be carried away with that particular victories over the Spanish teams.
Well, we'll be looking at the update there concerning those matches that will be coming up in quarterfinals of Europa League. Let's quickly look at the Europa Cup. That's the Europa Conference, I beg your pardon. That's the third tier of UEFA competition, rather. You have Lech Poznan against Fiorentina, Ghent against West Ham, Anderlecht, AZ Eichmann, Basel, Nice. We have at least some Nigerians here. Ghent, you have that's Oban, Gift, and we're playing against West Ham. And you look at OGC Nice, Terem Murphy is also there, although we know that Osimhen is in Napoli squad. But quickly, Fashemi, no time right now. Ghent against West Ham.
Ghent against West Ham. For West Ham, I think they are doing well in Europe. Last season, they came close to get to the final. They lost out in the semi-final. And this time around, against another team from an outsider from Belgium, where it's left to be seen. I think both teams will just, the best team will carry the day.
The best team will carry the day there. Let's see what will happen between FC Basel Switzerland against OGC Nice of France. Terem Murphy, and also for Gift Orban. Let's see what he'll be doing against West Ham. Maybe this one will get him to England after they play that match. And the last one, we'll be looking at Friday fixtures. Matches will be coming up tonight in England, and also La Liga. Not forgetting Italia. Let's look at those fixtures. Nottingham Forest against Newcastle United. I call it the battle of the end teams. Nottingham, Newcastle. Real Valladolid against Atletico Bilbao. Borussia Mönchengladbach against Werder Bremen. Sassuolo, Spezia, Empoli away to Atalanta. Ademola Lookman's team there. Will he be scoring tonight? We wait to see. Lyon, the one they call Olympique Lyonnais versus Simon Moses' team, Nantes.
Big one for Nantes and Lyon. Lyon is not doing well in the league this season, but for Nantes, also both teams are not doing well in the League One. But overall, the best team will have to win that encounter.
Well, that's it. You just have to wrap it up there. When it comes to sport, always watch us here. 360 Sport on Trust TV. Emmanuel Fashemi, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
I am Adeni Ajishafe. Thanks for watching.